I love to design buildings and bridges, watching floor plans, all the constructions, cranes carrying heavy beams and columns, highway roads, dams and nuclear power plants. It's so cool. What should I study to do this? Should I go into architecture or should I go into civil engineering? Hey, hello everyone, and welcome you guys to my YouTube channel Civil Engineering Geeks. In this video, we are going to see the difference between architecture and civil engineering in all the aspects. Before going into the video, if you are new to my channel, consider subscribing to my channel and press the bell icon for the instant notification whenever I upload a new video in this channel. So, what is the difference between architecture and civil engineering? This is one of the most common questions, the question that I personally also asked when I started my college degree, eventually my career. And I am a civil engineer, so I can speak directly to this topic and deliver better differences compared to a common man. There is a reasonable amount of overlapping, but actually there is a lot of difference between these two professions. As a global summary, although architects and engineers work together in office and in site and perform parallel functions in design and implementation of buildings and bridges or any infrastructure for that matter, but they are actually very different and focus on various parts of the design and construction. So, in this video, I am going to tell you the major differences between architects and civil engineers. First of all, let's see what does the definition of architecture and civil engineering says. Number 1. Definition. Architecture is a word derived from architecton, which translates to chief builder. Although the origin of the word might indicate that the architects are builders, but when it comes to reality, architecture is more to putting art into building or any structure. This is a creative profession that deals with the art and science of designing and constructing building and other structures for human use and shelter. Whereas civil engineering is a very broad term or field that involves designing, constructing and maintaining the physical and naturally built environment, including works like roads, bridges, canals, dams, and buildings. In other words, civil engineering deals with the different structural element of buildings in terms of practicality, deciding the materials to be used, load withstanding capacity of the structure, and long-term maintenance. Simply, architects design the building using their creative imagination and calculative prowess to put the available space to best possible use for humans. On the other hand, civil engineers actually assess the design given by the architects and determine if the same is structurally possible and viable in terms of construction and stable in both normal and high load conditions. Number 2. Scope. Architects' prime focus is upon the functionality and aesthetic part of the design of buildings or structure. They deal with the appearance, the art, the feel and culture of any structure while also keeping in mind about the basic structural elements of the building. But civil engineers inspect the design in the aspect of structural stability and plan and execute or construct the architectural design to bring the creative imagination of the architects into reality. So, on the scope of work, the architects are much focused on the artistic and aesthetic part, and the civil engineers focus on the technical and practicality side. If you are someone who is very much interested in drawing and super creative, then architecture is the best suit for you. But if you are someone who enjoys doing math and use technical calculations and design, then probably civil engineering is the best profession you could ask for. And this doesn't mean that architects don't deal with calculations or engineers don't deal with drawings. Both the fields have their own amount of drawing and technical calculations. But here I am trying to focus on how much of drawing and technical calculation you will do when you are an architect and an engineer. Number 3. Field of operation. Architects and civil engineers work in parallel and therefore some of their work overlaps. However, when it comes to field of operation, civil engineers have a wide range of options compared to architects. In general, architects are involved in the development of construction projects which requires creative presentation, for instance, townhouse residence, villas, commercial complex, public buildings, etc. Whereas any kind of construction work or structural engineering work is undertaken by civil engineers. Therefore, the extent of civil engineering can also involve public projects such as bridges, railway tracks, highways, and harbors. Generally, such projects do not require any aesthetic consideration and are purely designed from practicality perspective, keeping structural integrity as its prime focus. Number 4, mindset. Architects and civil engineers often approach problems and situations from various sectors. Architects have the tendency to be more creative, think outside the box, think in artistic perspective, be more connected to the aesthetics, but civil engineers, on the other hand, have a tendency to be more quantitative, reasoning, more practical, more rationally driven instead of how it is going to feel or how it is going to look. All that engineers are concerned about is how is this structure is going to stand and be more stable and how it's going to be done, how much it's going to cost. It's all about numbers for engineers. So often architects and civil engineers work together even though they have a different opinion on how the structure is going to be. It is important for architects and civil engineers to work in the same project to get an efficient structure, which means the structure should be economical as well as aesthetic to view. Number 5, workflow. This is where architects have big advantage because it comes down to feeling, energy and aesthetic and creativity and how it looks. Architects are basically the starters for the planning. They are the ones who create the plan or blueprints. They are the ones who decide the look of a structure. They are the first to have a vision on what the output is going to be. And then the civil engineers take that vision, those blueprints, and think how to build this vision, which approach to use to make it cost effective and quick. And what are the materials that are available to build this vision and how much time it is going to take to build this. Because time is money. It is nothing but the time management or construction flow management, etc. Here is where architects and civil engineers travel along to see what is available and what is most efficient approach with all the costs available for the particular project. And they change the design or plan accordingly to make the structure possible in real time. Again, you can decide where you want to be. Whether you want to be an architect and think out of box and plan stuff, or you want to be an engineer who is sole responsible for the construction flow and make the imagination into reality. This is the reason why I have become a structural engineer and not an architect, where being a structural engineer or a civil engineer is greater responsibility. It is always a challenge to design a structure such a way that it doesn't collapse, it maintains the stability and withstand all its load, including the unexpected load due to natural calamities. And with all this, the aesthetic view of the structure shouldn't get spoiled. Basically, a project is started with architect's vision and engineers then execute that vision into reality. And finally, number 6, curriculum. And again, we are hitting on the same core principle where architecture curriculum in a university is typically going to be more art scenes. It is going to be more theoretical. It is going to be little bit more about history, historical sightseeings, designs and drawings, etc. But engineers, we don't really have history or any kind of artistic view. We barely had a theoretical subject. We would be dealing more with math, physics, mechanics, dynamics, structural designs, etc. And when I say mathematics, it is going to be heavy and really heavy mathematics. If you don't like mathematics, then you probably shouldn't consider engineering because you won't just find calculations and equations in mathematical subjects, but also all other subjects like structural analysis 1, 2, mechanics, designs, steel and concrete designs, geotechnical engineering, fluid mechanics, etc. etc. So if math is not your thing, then you are not going to survive as a civil engineer. Maybe if math is struggle for you, but you want to get into design and planning and you have creative imagination brain, then you should go with architecture. There are plenty of people ask like, I am no good at math. It is possible for me to be an engineer. Yeah, kind of. You can be an engineer, but you can't survive in your field. You can't be that 1% efficient engineer. You are going to struggle a lot choosing engineering when maths is not your cup of tea. So to conclude with, if you are good at maths, solving big equations and calculations, then you should probably choose civil engineering over architecture. But if you're not good at math, but you have a good creative imagination power, then you should go with architecture and not civil engineering. And that's the information I wanted to share with you guys in this video. If you do like this video, Then subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for instant notification whenever I upload a new video related to civil engineering. Thank you guys and see you all in the next video.